Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you some of the techniques that I use in shading to create the 3D effect and realism in my drawings. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so for this video, I'm going to be working with a 2B pencil and just a plain sketchbook, so yeah. So for the first technique, we got hatching. For this technique, you're basically stroking pencil lines on the paper in parallel motions, but at a very soft rate. You're not doing it too hard. Okay, so another thing you want to take note of is the way you hold your pencil. You don't want to be holding it pointed to the tip. Instead, you want to hold it by the sides and make sure it's the sides that are going on it so you can have a smoother shade. And then for the second tip, we're looking at cross hatching. In this method, just like the first one, the hatching, you're basically going to start off with parallel lines. But the difference is once you're done with the parallel lines, you make perpendicular lines to cross over them to make some type of X shape. So you have those multiple X shape giving the illusion of cross hatches, basically. Alright, so for the third technique, we're looking at something called contour hatching. So contour hatching basically is like a kind of hatching where you mimic the shape of the object or whatever reference that you're gonna be drawing down. So basically, I'm just gonna draw down a circle, and in this circle, when I want to shade with the contour hatching method, I'm gonna try to mimic the shape of the circle by slightly curving my hatches into the body of the circle. And when I do that, it kind of gives an illusion of a 3D effect. You see me curving it right now at the ends, so I could do the same at the other side, give like an X, but you can see it's still curved. So bottom line, you want to just mimic the shape of the object that you're drawing. And for the fourth technique, we're going to look at blending. So when you're blending, you use a blending stump. Well, that's what I personally like to use, but there are actually other alternatives that you can use if you don't have a blending stump. And by that I mean you could use a Q-tip. It also works well when you're doing the blending technique, or you could even use a cotton wool or cotton in general. If you don't want to use that, you could also go for a paintbrush or even a makeup brush, depending on what you have or what your preferences are. Now back to the technique. So basically you're just gonna do the same stroke method that we did in the other techniques. You wanna just do that over, shade it really close and softly, and then you're gonna go in with your blending tool. I'll start things off with the blending stump and just go over it back and forth, back and forth. Now we go in with the Q-tip, the same way we did with the blending stump. We're gonna smudge over it until everything's completely blended. Make sure to hit all the areas, that way you can have a perfect mixture. So now you just go on with the same repetitive process using the cotton wool and try to smudge everything together. This is just me testing out all of the different styles of blending. Personally, I like to use the blending stump or the Q-tip, but most times the blending stump. But if you prefer to use any of the other methods, please go for it. But this is just me test running all of them. And of course, we go in with the paintbrush, or you could even use a makeup brush depending on what you want to use. So yeah, exactly the same process. Go over it and just, brush over it, basically. Now, another way to go over the blending method without actually having to shade on the paper with your pencil is to actually just get graphite or charcoal powder, depending on your preference, and just, sprinkle a little bit on your paper And once you've done that, you go in with your blending tool and you smudge it together. Now I'm going to practicalize the shading method on the sphere right here, but I'm going to be using the cross-hatching method, and I would blend over it afterwards. So I'm going to go in with some shades right there and just start it off with the hatches and cross hatches. Now I'm using the arrow to highlight the point where the light's coming from, and on the other side, the dark part where the shadow's gonna be. So that's your highlight point where you got some sort of source of light, and this the other dark point for the shadow. Now once you're done with the shading, you get your blending tool, and I'm gonna use the blending stump for the top part of the shade, and I'll use the Q-tip for the bottom part of the shade. So now we're just gonna finish up with the shadow towards the right end. And if you found this video helpful at all, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.